Yeah, you show me later. Yeah. All right. Finally, we're live. All right. All right. Peace to everybody here. Just do a quick sound check if you hear me live and direct. Um, let me know. All right. Let me know. All right. All right. Willingly, this is the first session where sound and is not an issue. Last week the sound was good, but my connection with the sound was a problem. So, yeah. So, all right. That's peace. That's peace. Um all right, good to see the brothers are in here. All right. Okay. All right. So I see some people that I'm getting to know on this thing here, and we're going to address these things as we go along. And we've had these classes exclusively digitally for a while. Never did that before like that. Stream sometimes via the God Infinite, Mecca. And he was able to get kind of that stream feel, but I'm eventually going to go back to the school. I said this on my social media. This next week's class will be the last class exclusively online. Okay, so after July 9th, I'm going to go back to the school. Okay, and July 9th, just because I feel like it. No particular reason. It's just the date works for me, if not for anybody else. It works for me to go back and deal with all this Coronaism. All right. So, peace-wise, you. Thank you for that sound check. All right. Good to be heard the right way. And throughout these digital classes, I know I made you struggle with hearing me properly and stuff like that. I had never used my laptop like that. It's literally just a writing music machine for me. Writing and listening to music machine for me. So, but starting off a little slow, letting everybody build up in here. That way we can see who's here. If you have any questions, obviously we're always going to go through how you see today's mathematics. So I would like people to, if you have it already, which would be great, right? We've gone through this entire day already. To throw your build on the day's mathematics. Not necessary, but always welcome. And we'll go through some other things as well. What's some of the stuff for the itinerary, though, in this today's class? Okay. All right. All right. Except for the date, I'll be reminding everyone, though, I will be back in a law school. There are some students that you guys, you all have built with me. You've let me know certain things, and I've had to kind of repeat the same questions again and again. So whether you can't find someone that lives near you, right? Peace, Yazid, Yusuf. All right, 793rd G1. All right. All right, Black Power Fit. I just like saying that, Black Power. But you ever read what's his name? Amos Wilson's Black Power, a juggernaut of a book, by the way, 700 plus pages. It was reading that book that I realized that I don't think I'm going to read this all in 1 month. And I started to read large books by reading a set amount every week. I'd literally divide the books. So certain mega books, books that are 500 pages plus, really. I tend to pick some, maybe about a handful every year, right? And break them up throughout the entire year. And that doesn't count as far as like reading all the other books that I'm trying to read. right? And you'll see that, you know, those kind of books, or and also do that with the not necessarily long books, but books that are very difficult for you. You know, be honest with yourself. Sometimes with everything, sometimes you could be reading and you're reading a book that is not that long, but you read it terribly, and it's something you really want to know. You know, really you should know. Like I give you an example. Let's be honest, the Chaikenta Diop books are not easy reads. You know what I mean? And or sometimes people aren't really good at reading archaeological text. You know, I'm trying to think of his name. I literally have his books within reach. Um, R.A. Schwaller de Lubitz. Let me write his. I'm gonna write his name down. R.A. Schwaller. And by the way, this is the easiest part about his writing. This is his name. R.A. Schwaller de Lubitz was an Egyptologist who didn't give a damn about making things any simpler for you. But he wrote a lot of books, and they were very short. The Temple and Man. Let's see. See if they have a little. I know I have the Temple of Man, esotericism and symbolism. I'm trying to think of. Let me see if I could look up the names of some of his books without having to reach over, because he's an important author. One of the shortest books that I try to read every few years that is extremely difficult for me. As far like it's not difficult anymore. I've probably read the book at least 10 over 10 times at least. Because I've tried to read it once every year since I've had it, and I've had it over 20 years. Is A Study of Numbers, and that's a heavy book. But there's also the Temple in Man. What's another book I have of it? Symbol and the Symbolic. I have that one. Esotericism and Symbol. Those are some of the books I have of them. They're very short books, but they're very heavy. If you ever have problems reading certain books like that, don't think because they're short that you got to read them all at once and stuff. Take the time to digest it. You know, this is where your journal writing comes into play, because you can write about what you don't understand. Write literally the passages in there that you don't understand. Make note of them. Try to explain the questions that you have. Like, if you don't understand something that you just read, try to actually explain what you don't understand in the form of a question. Even if you get no one to answer it, it'll begin the process of you coming to that answer. You know, yeah, definitely, yeah. Dark Light Consciousness, a very heavy book as well. You know what I mean? And sometimes some books may not be heavy where you don't necessarily understand it, but just because it has a lot of information, you know, and just because you could get through it, you realize you might not be, you know, remembering the information in any kind of useful way. So then you might want to break up the book, you know. So these are all things that I've done, um, you know, over the years. And so there's always a certain amount of books every year. I think this year, right now, I have, it works out as a whole week because I have 7 books that I have to read at least 10 to 15 pages every week to make the book. Some of them are extremely long. Some of them are short, are not as long, but I basically I want to be able to read them. And I'll be honest with you, one of those books actually is a very short book and a very simple book. It has nothing to do with its difficulty. It's just that I hate the book and I want to read it. So 10 pages a week is all I could do without me being sick. You know, without me being sick by the propaganda of the book. You know, so I only read 10 pages a week, though. You know, um, it's that particular book is Michael Eric Dyson's Jay-Z book. You know, the hagiography, if I ever read one. So it disgusts me so much that I just read 10 pages every week so I can get through it. The book is only about 136 pages, right? So the thing is, though, is like certain books you're reading, though, for the information that you want to know, the things you want to know, they're not always for the enjoyment. So you want to balance those things as well. You know what I mean? And also take note, you know what I'm saying? You can also pick the certain books for enjoyment, right? The books you read, you'll read better the books that are the informative books, the work books, the books that you need to read, if you have a tendency to also use books for enjoyment. Okay, if you do that, you'll have more of a tendency to actually read the correct books. You know what I mean? But with those long books that have heavy information that are very difficult, read small amounts every week. You know, have that regimen, and it goes along with my Word is Bond Plus lesson that I'm still crafting, right? Because right. I do have a digital copy, Supreme Nature, of the Art of Peace. So if you want if you'd like an EPUB of screenshots of the book, which you can read easily, it's a very short book. It's really the jewels in the book. I can send you that, though. Of course, I definitely would support you. You know, absolutely getting your own physical copy. Of the Art of Pieces. They sell that in a regular size, but they also sell it as a pocket bound book. You know, which is beautiful. You know, something you can take with you. See if I put that link so you can see what it is. But yeah, I love the Shambhala publishing books because they have these pocket books that are really before everything went digital. I was getting those so much because I could carry them around with me and really do the knowledge to them all the time. You know, I was obsessed with that. I was obsessed with carrying things easily and carrying things all the time. You know what I mean? I had and I was the one. If you ever see it, I was the one to put 120 lessons on a two-sided 8.5 by 11 sheet, and that was just because I was bored at work and years ago, and in my cubicle, and I was trying to figure out a way how can I carry 120 with me easily and just pull it out and just do the nouns to it on one paper and practice and think about it. And so I thought, so I did that. But The Art of Peace is definitely so. If any of you want that book, The Art of Peace, particularly, if any of you even have a thought about, you know, seriously train, if you're in the New York area and you want to build with me on that deeper level and get to the point where you train with me, we do kung fu. Um, Definitely, you'll have to read The Art of Peace. I don't build with anybody um, on a martial art level if they don't read The Art of Peace. You know what I mean? All right, peace, Aim. Uh, have you completed the Living Foods Protocol? No, I haven't completed it. You know what's interesting is that I'm reading a book. Let me give you the name of it. Let me see if I can pull it up in my library here. I'm reading a book that I want to finish. For some reason, I feel that I need to finish this book. And that is not an easy thing, not because I don't read, but because I'm reading so many books at one time that I kind of forget. It gets lost in the shuffle. But I'm about a third of the way through. But there's a book I'm reading called Formerly Known as Food by Kristen Lawless. And I just want to read that book um, just so the latest information that I'm reading about food and diet I have done. But I have not finished any of any of the plus lessons that I've been saying that I'm going to get out. Um, so as we go along, I will finish them. And remember, the most important thing is that you take good notes. Okay, I don't want you to just rely on the plus lesson, although I do want you to have those things, right? But I definitely will get those things done because as I do them, they'll be. And when I get the plus lesson done for say, when I finally complete the complete Word is Bond plus lesson, I will teach it again, and we'll go over it again. Uh, of course, I won't be as cliche of waiting for the 11th day, you know. But if there is any book that you are interested in reading and you think I might have, ask me. Okay, You don't have to afford every book. The point in this classroom, though, is that you have these materials that you can read. Okay. I spent a lot of time getting these books, and they don't do me justice if I'm the only one that can have them. You know what I mean? I want to share them with my family, and I want to share them with you students. All right. So you let me know. I don't have everything. My 50 my Power Cipher beginner book list. Not every book on that list I have digitally. But a lot of them I do. A lot of them I do. Right? So if you let me know, right? So I think there was one thing I had on my agenda for today that I kind of ended up going into, and I'll kind of segue into that because it goes into what I was saying though. But I'm just writing something down, the notes for this. I don't want to forget. But since we were talking about books, though, I this is not a question anyone's asked me, but just an observation, and I have to comment on it. A lot of students always ask, so they say that they're studying 120, so they're not spending their time reading anything. Um, one of the things I get that, right? If you say that that's the way that you're studying, though, you feel it's easier to focus on 120. We all have very busy lives and stuff, right? And we're learning 120, so you may not you may not read that, you may not be able to focus like that. So you say, okay, so I'm just gonna do the knowledge to 120 like that. I think that is not the best idea. Hey, Peace-E, wise you, I see your build on the mathematics. I'm gonna get to it. I don't think that that's an end all rule, right? For you not to read or study other things. Here's why I'm saying that, right? When you're knowledging 120, and I think this is a partly part of the reason why a lot of people don't knowledge 120. We put so much emphasis on it as being like this legendary piece of material that we have strived to get, that we forget that it is basically a document that is talking about us and the humanity, or the lack of humanity, and the reasoning of lack of humanity around us. That's all it is. It's that historical document. It has important history about why this world sucks. How it is created and how we are in the middle of this great lesson in building a man that was unlike man, but is still man in nearly every way. So the reason I'm saying, the first thing, maybe there's two things, right? What I'm saying here. The first thing is we look at 120 and learning this in too much of an epic nature, right? So what happens? I'm just checking my text message because I have the phone volume up, and I don't like that while I'm building with y'all. And when we look too much when we look too much into the epic nature of things, we tend not to attack it. You know what I'm saying? I found this also when I was studying the martial arts, though. You know what I'm saying? There's so many my own brothers that I was learning from, the gods really that taught me um the epic nature of kung fu. It's epic, it's still epic. That when you go out and learn it, though, you're like, whatever you did learn, like if you learn certain techniques, the Wing Chun and stuff, like you end up in a real situation and you don't use them because you think they're so epic that you're not ready to use them, and you resort to the wrong methods, or like just the old sloppy way that you were dealing with things. This is something that happens also with learning new things. We think they're too beyond this or too epic, and it becomes a task that is too insurmountable. So what I would say first is take away that epic nature. This stuff is literally about you. And the reason I was able to learn 120 in a short amount of time, because I learned 120 from the time I got Knowledge of Self, May 1999. And by December of 1999, literally my own born day at the end of the month, I was able to get my universal flag. And the gaps in time were only because my enlightener, he was a little slow with getting me the next set, because back then we were in the printed era. I had to like drag him to Staples and make sure he had the copy with him. I mean, he memorized this. Why? He's not walking around with copies. So the funny thing is, right, is right now I'm trying to go live on the Instagram, because a lot of the people were on there asking good questions. Even though I didn't see the benefit of doing it. I guess some people actually would be online only, right? So right now I'll go online on the YouTube as well. And let's see if this adds on. Anybody want to build on there? They're not really doing the knowledge and stuff, and see if that will work out for people, right? All right, peace to the God. See, I wasn't gonna go online, and then I see the true and living God, Rakim Supreme Shabazz Allah. So it was worth going online just to say peace to the God. You know what I mean? But I was saying though was that a lot of the students have difficulty knowledging 120 because they look at it so daunting. You know what I mean? Yeah, 793. I'm going to say something about Michael Eric Dyson, since I said those darts about the Jay-Z book, which I'm not going to apologize for those darts, but we always take the best part, so I want you to see something in that too. But one of the interesting things about knowledge in 120, memorizing this, it's about regular space, regular size font. It's about 12, 13, maybe 14 pages of literature. It is seen as extremely epic by so many. So what happens is that you tend not to really do the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? You tend not to really study it very well. You know what I mean? And every single degree you're scared of ruining. Every single degree you're not really focused on it. So that becomes a real difficulty. I'm just trying to perch this Instagram thing a better way. You know what I mean? I think I had it fine the first way. I don't know why I'm messing with all this. Right? Indeed, Kim, one lesson at a time. You know what I mean? And I think some people aren't even getting into one lesson at a time, so they get stuck on it. But here's another reason. The reason I'm mentioning all this is that some people will say, I'm just going to focus on knowledge in 120, and I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to read books or anything like that. You set yourself in a little bit, not too much, because focus is good, right? But here's some of the reasons why. I worry about the westernized approach in learning, where you only focus on one thing, one area of study, and then that's it. That's really how the westernized educational system is. The other thing is this, is that when you're knowledge in 120, right? One of the greatest ways to knowledge 120 is to also be studying lots of things at the same time, because you start to see the relevance of how things interplay with each other, right? And when they interplay with each other, you're studying 120, and then you're realizing that it can be a living document. It is not a dead document. It's almost like saying, when I ask students if we're going to train to read The Art of Peace, you're reading The Art of Peace, though, while you're starting to train, then you start to see the visualization of why there needs to be a mentality of peace as you learn how to violently defend yourself. You know what I mean? And these contradictions are all in there. So what I would say is this: I personally advocate that the student read many things and always be doing the knowledge, because you also might not realize that everything is having an influence on the way that you knowledge 120. You know what I mean? When you knowledge 120, you actually might be, when you knowledge 120, you actually might be looking at things, whether it be television, whether it be sports, whether it be the people that you're communicating with, and not really taking into account the effect that they have on your perception of 120. Like, for example, people that learn 120 are often a lot of us are in a negative environment. So when we're knowledge in 120, these degrees start to have worth because of the negative environment. What happens if you start to recognize your negative environment, right, but not really acknowledge it properly? You may be using 120 to excuse it, as opposed to taking responsibility, which is the opposite of 120's dictates. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that could happen. What I would say is this, though, is that life doesn't work that way. Here's the ultimate understanding on this, right? When you finish memorizing, when we say doing a knowledge in 120, you can wisdom it, you can speak it, you can quote them. You're actually going to be using this in the world where you're going to now be knowledging many things. The first thing that will happen is that if you weren't reading anything or studying anything, then now you haven't really prepped yourself. And just like anything, you'll be very rusty in learning and studying other things. That's a fact. Okay. I'm an avid reader. And if I don't read for a day or two, I have a significant slowdown in my levels compared to what they were before. Right. So, that's also important. Right. The other thing is this: the way that you live with 120 is that you'll always be amassing mass amounts of information and doing the knowledge and analyzing mass amounts of information. So one of the ways to learn 120 is to also see how that works out. And I think it's good to be taking 120 and studying things about the indigenous populations as you go through the understanding degree in the 1 to 14. You know what I mean? Asking for some books, like one of my students asked about the Jews, and when he was going through the 5th degree, the 1 to 14, and so on and so forth. Reading blatant supplemental literature like The Making of the White Man by Paul Guthrie when you're reading through 1 to 14, or the culture degrees, or you're reading through any degree in the 1 to 40. So understand that when you say, I'm not going to do anything but memorize 120, right? You actually would not be preparing yourself for the way that you would keep it memorized as in the life of having 120. You understand? The life of 120, you will have to constantly go back and memorize it again. You will have to refresh yourself. You will have to say, well, the degrees I might be forgetting are the ones that I'm not using that much. So what happens is you got to go back. And one of the ways to keep degrees unlocked for me has always been to write about what I don't understand and put them into distinct questions of attack, right? And then one of the other ways of knowledging 120 is to also, the degrees that I'm having trouble with, right, is to also find supplemental literature that goes with it, even if it's indirect or direct. But your life with 120 is about using 120 as a way to analyze information, analyze life's reality around you. So you're not really going to get that. Understand that you've already made like a false cipher if you say, I'm just going to knowledge 120. So even if that's the only way you could do it, because you don't have time to read anything else but that, let's say you only have an hour to it, an hour at the most, because of a busy work schedule and taking care of children, whatever it is. And then you want to get your workout in and your training, right? Because you wouldn't be a student of mine if you're not trying to do that and not doing that, okay? Um, then I understand that. You know what I mean? You have to prioritize the studies as well, right? But if it was ideal, I would want you to continue to study things and read books while you knowledge 120, though. Okay? But let me see some of the comments here about that. I know there was some comments here. All right. Good to see some of the people online. All right. All right. Peace, peace. All right. Appreciate these names. All right. All right. Peace. Peace, Queen. All right. Appreciate all the people coming on. And if anybody wants the entire class session, this will ditch me and kick me out after an hour. The entire session is on my YouTube channel, Sunez 7, the number 7. Sunez and the number 7. And as I said earlier in the class, July 9th is when I'm going to be going back into a law school to teach the class, live and direct, you know. So this session here and next week's Thursday session are going to be only via this live online stream on YouTube. But when I go back into a law school in Mecca to teach, I will be streaming it via the YouTube, you know. So, you know, everyone, if you may not, or if you just don't feel comfortable, like if you don't feel comfortable to travel to anything that you're not ready for and just want to do the most limited amount of things as far as your travel because of this COVID, I understand that. I advocate that. Then I understand that. But I'll be back at the school July 9th. All right. And that's just because it fits my schedule, my life, the way I feel like doing that. Right. But let's see. Yusuf said it should be slow and steady. That is knowledge 120, right? It's not a race. It's about patience to soak up what each lesson is giving you, especially if a degree correlates with science. Right. I agree with that. It's about finding your pace, but also being diligent in that pace. Right? It's my honor, triple. Right? You got the ill name there, Triple I Vision. Right? Yeah, it's an honor. Understand that I've been teaching like this and teaching this class for over 20 years. But when I got this knowledge, the teachers that taught me spent hours and nights with me, and they didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? So it's just a natural progression. It's just a natural progression. But going back to what I was saying about Michael Eric Dyson, Michael Eric Dyson is a really exquisite writer. You know what I mean? He has a way of detailing things, and his vocabulary is stellar. You know what I mean? His vocabulary impresses me each and every time. You know what I mean? But on that Jay-Z book, he's really, it's a propaganda book for Jay-Z and also Beyonce. There are quotes in there where he literally calls Jay-Z and Beyonce that they are not civil rights leaders, but they are social justice warriors. And that's a big stretch for billionaires that throw out their money for certain programs every now and then to produce and guide certain things. It's hardly would be social justice warrior. You know what I mean? That's why I said Jay-Z is just really the black Andrew Carnegie of our time. And that's a homework assignment. Look up Andrew Carnegie, though, and look at the philanthropy he did at the end, though. Does it really absolve the devilishment that he did, even though we could go to the library in New York City? Somebody said, Gregory said here, is that like when the Buddha said, don't take it for truth till you apply it? Horrible paraphrase. No, not a bad paraphrase, actually. Yeah, because when you knowledge 120 lessons, those degrees are going to have to be related to real life. What you want to do sometimes is also be applying it to a lot of things out there you'll be applying it automatically to things you see. And what I actually worry about first and foremost is that when students read a degree and it starts to they start to analyze things from looking up down. So now they're the true and living God, the true and living earth, and now they use the degrees to analyze things from the top down. So a good example is like he likes the devil because the devil gives him nothing. So like now they'll be building and they'll see somebody asking for something and just being maybe a savage or maybe not. And of course, you can ask a question. I will answer it. That's why I went live. Certainly. You know, um, if if you now go, oh look at those people. They like the devil because the devil gives them nothing. Now you're taking your analytical aspect of what you're learning about the degrees and applying it to people that you see out there. All right, peace, queenly Asia. Peace, Earth. Right? Um, I'm I'm not sure what you said here. Does it matter? Okay, yeah. When you type that again, I'll certainly answer the question. But yeah, any questions, just please ask it here. But what I want is not the pompousness of analyzing degrees and saying, "Oh, look, this is how this is why those people are doing that." These lessons also apply to you analyzing yourself, right? Oh, no, no, no. Anyone that actually logs on here is already part of my class, though, and that's the way I've done it. That's the way I've done it in the physical. When you're physically there, there's always a more of a precedence to the people that travel to physically learn with me. But if you email me and we build and I see where you're at with things and I can understand where you're at as a student, then what happens is that I can actually guide you to to the assignments and the direction that you would need to absolutely do it. But this class was designed to teach what people know at what level they're at, though. And all the students that are in any class session I have are never really at the same level. Okay, so you're absolutely welcome, whatever level you're at. You know what I mean? Whatever level you're at, though, I deal with you on that level, and then we build. And each session, depending on each person's level of building, right? That'll entail the type of class session that we have. So it's always based on the students that are there. You know what I mean? And I've had to spend a long time perfecting that. But that's what Savior Knowledge taught me. He used to always tell me, you're never going to get students all at the same level. So you always have to learn how to build with those who have the least amount of understanding, meaning that what they learn, they're just learning. But you can format the classroom so that way everyone else can get an understanding. If someone knows the information I'm relaying, then they would get insights into pedagogy, the science of teaching, you know? And absolutely, you're absolutely welcome, Queen. Absolutely welcome. And let me write down the email real quick. The email to email me is okay. So if you email me, then I immediately, you know, answer your questions. I was actually slow this week. I emailed all the emails I got to like, Thursday afternoon, but honestly, I just had a really great week. I finally saw both my daughters at the same time. So after all these COVID months and stuff, I hadn't seen them for months. So it was just it was a great weekend. Can't get mad. Don't be too mad at me that I didn't care about anything else, But what do we have here? Okay, let's see the comments here. All right, Bone Eternal, peace. Yeah, Yazid said, true indeed. Okay, circumstances dictate the usage of time. So for me, I fall into the latter description of those you mentioned. Who knowledge 120? Got to get it as I can personally. That's how it goes. You get it as you can. Right? Serious peace to the God. 793. Yeah, you're right though. He does. He really does. Right? That is Dyson does get a little bit emo. But an exceptional writer though. So an exceptional writer. You know, always study the people that have a great command of language and the ability to guide you on a journey and artistically convey their thoughts and ideas. That's a real skill. It's a real skill. It's one that you watch. We've been watching this president so long really butcher that concept. If you want to see the opposite, you'd be watching his stuff. He does it terribly, you know. But so anyway, every student would have to email me to get some type of curriculum. This class comes with a lot of materials, digital materials. So if you didn't have any ebooks, if you don't have any Google, if you don't have a Google Books app, and you don't have a whole bunch of EPUBs in there, well, now you're gonna have a whole bunch. You know what I mean? So you'll have PDFs, EPUBs, mainly EPUB. I like to do EPUB, which goes into the Nook, but mainly using the Google because I think that's the best. But it's your preference. And all these books and materials that I give are yours to keep. You know what I mean? They'll be yours. You won't have to, give anything back, and I won't lose any books either. So it's a win-win. And of course, I try to get every book, but there's a lot of books like the incredible Ivan Van Sertima collection of African presence books. Those aren't really available digitally. If you find those digitally, you're finding a PDF that someone took the time to take screenshots of and faithfully, advocate for that. Right? Let's see here. Okay, so, might as well flow into this because there's a lot of things, and because you're a digital student and now we will collide, and I want the digital student, you digital students, to come back into a cipher by July 9th and not be content with being a secondary student. Okay, one that is watching on the fringes. All right. I don't know how many people are keeping tabs of um of the 5%media.com. That's spelled F. I'll spell it in the right. The 5%media.com. Let me put that link into the chat here as well. Right. But I write a column on this class every single week as well. And I try to add on with just some, I kind of ruminate and muse on what I thought, about the last class session or what it just takes me to. And a lot of it was about the qualifying of the digital student, you students that, let's say, you're not. And I want to go through some of these ideas and just kind of riff about those ideas. You know what I'm saying? About yeah, I am DDVOs. Some of your symbolism, I'm not getting what you're saying there. So I don't know if you're saying that you're gonna DM me something. That's fine. But yeah, I want to find a way and not just say if you're not, if you're not, no, that's okay. No need to say sorry. You know what I mean? I just want to actually help. I don't want to waste anyone's time. One of the things when I have new students, I always tell them 3 things, and I tell them 3 things so that if you never come to my class again or never log on or anything like that, you know that these are 3 things that you can always do. But the first thing is to always validate who it is that's teaching you. You know what I mean? And one of the first things I say to the student that goes along with that first thing is Not yet real hip hop 216. Throw your builds in here. Okay. I'm going to go back and read the ones who build on the mathematics of the day. But if you don't get knowledge, which is useful information, or wisdom, the tools to apply that useful information, that knowledge, so that you gain an understanding on your own time, which is all the time, then I don't want you in my classroom. I would like you to realize that, hey, I'm not getting anything from him. I'm just going to leave. And so wasting people's time, though, is really what I don't want to do. So the first thing I always advocate is that you actually do the knowledge to who it is that's teaching you, and you validate who is your teacher. And in this case, what you're doing is you're doing the lifelong process of actually overtly, outrightly doing the knowledge to who it is that's teaching you, what it is that you're learning from. What are the things that you see that stay in your memory? What are the things that you forget, right? And these are things that are very important. We tend to forget certain things, and we don't want to forget them, but we do. We tend to remember certain things that we don't want to remember. If you start to study the reasoning behind this, what you're actually doing, though, is studying your own ways of learning. And by learning how you learn, you can also learn how you are fooled. These are real important. These are real important because you could really run into pitfalls if you don't really do that. You could find out that you're really learning from poor source material, not just bad teachers, but bad information, bad outlets. Let's say, let's say just bad news, like not really verified outlets. You know what I'm saying? You're not choosing your books well. You know what I'm saying? Because that's also an art too. The book is an amazing thing because when you choose a book, you're being a teacher, right? And when you finally start reading that book, you're being a student. You know what I mean? Because you have evaluated yourself and your level as you pick the book. And then as you read the book, you're now being the student. So understand that process of you being your own teacher and student. You know what I mean? To yourself. And so I say the first thing that anyone that comes into my classroom is to validate who it is that's teaching you and use me as a first thing. Why is Sunez teaching? Why does he get to teach? What does he know? What can he share? You know what I mean? What can he do? Then the second thing is to always, and if you notice, I've been saying this throughout this class session, is to always be developing your next question. You know what I mean? Always be developing your next question. When you develop your next question, understand that you have to actually go through the process of verifying that what you think you know is actually true, because you made a question about what you don't know, but it also assumes that there are things that you do know and you're past it. For example, if you don't really know how to add, your question about multiplication will not really serve you well, right? Because you haven't really learned like the intricacies, the earlier step, So these are things to take note of in there. So the student is better served by the question than they are by the answer. A lot of us get knowledge of self, and we're really we take on this title, and that's what we think the assignment is, because people have done that to us. Say, yo, you're the God now. You're supreme knowledge, divine, whatever, Allah, right? What happens is that they took up that title, and now they have to perform. So they have to perform their existence as opposed to spending time in preparation, the nature of their way. And then the name would come. So they end up being a little backward because of that. What I'm saying then is spend the time as a student developing your question. And that's why I say, like, when you read books that are difficult, this is a good challenge, right? I mean, there's some books where you read every single sentence is gone. Like, you don't get anything. Like, it's just totally a foreign language. this is not the kind of book I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about a book that is very difficult, but you kind of can get through it, but you have to take it in smaller dosages. But sometimes also working in your journal, which is what I advocate and is in the curriculum that I send everyone that emails me, and that includes students in the physical classroom. If the students in the physical classroom don't email me themselves, then that means that they are also behind in the curriculum. Just be, it's not, I don't do that. I just sat in his Sunez's class for like, I just sat in his class for a while, and then, I'm a student of his though. Unfortunately, I have poor students as well, and you know, and that would be a poor student, right? And absolutely, real hip hop 216. Yes, the journal is necessary. He said that yes, the journal is necessary. It is vital. It's how I developed the way I can answer all these questions effortlessly. It has developed how I have remembered so many books that I have read. And it has also had me have the respect of my own life to actually write it down and say that there will be someone that might find it worthwhile. And if no one found it worthwhile, saying it back to myself was a worthy enough audience. Right? All right, I guess, yeah, axes. It's the same thing as when you have a child. The child is the one teaching you how to be a parent, not the other way around. You just put so much in percent by just a couple of. Very true. Very true. You know what I mean? That process of learning is really like a cipher. It isn't linear like a line, a straight graph line going up. It's more circular. The child is the one that doesn't know anything we know, but yet they end up having to go backwards, meaning that we take them back to the basics of what we know, and then we bring them forward. So it's circular. It goes back and goes forward, and yet the child ends up learning more than us and being greater than us, and so they are more profound. Their reality is more deeper. So this reality of what I say is what I'm teaching is perfection, constant elevation at an ever increasing rate, where the rate is not linear, but one of a circular depth of infinity. Then we're always going back to go forward. And there's a depth to learning, not just, an accumulation. We learn this, and we learn this knowledge of self in the Western world. So we think of learning as a linear aspect only. Because I train in the martial arts with the gods and that fused together, I tend to look at things in a more Eastern way of approach. So I don't always just look at learning as just a linear approach. You're accumulating, you're adding, and it also what you learn to let go as well, right? And someone asked me here, what do I think about KRS-One? I'll answer that real quick though, and I'm answering the Instagram first because the Instagram, it keeps leaving me faster. You know what I mean? But what do I think about? And I get worried that I might get logged off that hour. But KRS-One is to me. I think that there are only two right now. Two absolute. No, excuse me. How could I say? Three absolute GOAT candidate MCs of all time. And what I mean by GOAT candidate is that I think that there are many MCs that I love and appreciate the argument of being GOAT. Tupac, I do. He's the most unique to me. And I could argue that all day. I've written pieces on it. But I think Ghostface Killer, Pharoah Monch, Black Thought, Nas, of course, Nas. All of these people are in GOAT candidacy. If anybody argues them, I'm okay. I understand. I get it. But the absolute GOAT candidate, I think only KRS-One, Rakim, and Kool G Rap are absolute GOAT candidates. They have to be absolutely seen as a GOAT candidate no matter what. And it's because they pioneered too much. They pioneered too much. And technically, all the other guys I mentioned, though they've excelled incredibly, their excelling still only matches how the others have excelled. And sometimes with KRS-One, people forget how high he excelled as far as building. But by the way, a very interesting and intriguingly interesting book is KRS-One's Gospel of Hip Hop. 800-page book, but a very interesting, lots of interesting philosophical perspectives in there. You know what I mean? Lots of interesting things. You know what I mean? Peace, Malik, right? If anybody would like that book, just email me too, though. I have a lot of books, you know. A wonderful book to have in a physical. It's really bound beautifully. But I also have it digitally. That's too heavy to carry around. Right? But we said the two things that I say to every student, two of the three things I say to every student that comes into my classroom. I said to verify who it is that's teaching you so that way you can actually judge how you learn. So you start to learn how you learn. The second thing is to always be developing your next question by working to verify what it is you think you know. Okay? Right? And I see, all right, I see the laughter. I don't know if that's because maybe everybody hates KRS-One here. I don't know. But and KRS-One just always seen by many as arrogant, you know, but when I had my own paper and it was a lowly publication, I had very little power or very little reach as far as readership, and he had very little time, and I was the last in a long line of interviews, and he still gave me a 3-hour interview. So, you know, just, you know, an absolute GOAT candidate, you know. You can't beat, when it comes to certain forms of art, the guy that makes classic works, the artist that makes classic works and also pioneers is hard to beat. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to beat, you know. Smells good. You wrote KRS-One tainted colored. I don't know what you mean by that. Yeah, Edutainment is a great album. Yeah. Mr. G1. I'm taking random questions before I go back into the day's mathematics, right? What are my thoughts, Mr. G1? What are your thoughts on the 52 hand blocks? Do you see it as a complete martial art? Some of the gods that are in my lineage of Kung Fu that taught me Kung Fu as my big brothers, like Wise Ramel, they mastered and teach 52 hand blocks. Now, for the general 52 blocks practitioner, I think that 52 hand blocks is a deliberately arrogant moving style. So I think it's not for everyone because, and that's the best way to explain it though. The body language is deliberately arrogant. So it leads your defenses open. If you're not as skilled. And I like to judge martial arts. They're worth a lot because I don't think that any martial art is greater than another because you often can only grade them based on the individuals and usually have. So I like to grade them on, are they easier for non-athletes to use, you know? And 52 hand blocks, you've got to be a good athlete. You know what I'm saying? A good athlete. Smells good. I don't want to spend all day on KRS-One though, but why do you say that though? You know? Right? I'd like to see why you say that. But yeah, so 52 hand blocks is dope. You know what I mean? I don't think that it's the perfect art for everyone. And I think that you have to be willing to get hit. You have to be daring. And you have to be fast. There's no way around it though. You do 52 hand blocks, you got to be fast. You know? If I had to pick a martial art for everyone, I would pick Wing Chun because it's easy and a non-athlete can do it. You know what I mean? So that's really why, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't have a problem with anybody learning 52 from it, you know? Also too, because 52 is like a hood science, it's also hard to verify who it is you're learning from though. You know what I'm saying? And these are things I hope Wise Ramel releases his documentary on it, that he could give some jewels on that. and really show us, how would we validate? And how do we validate? We have to learn, more about the way it looks and the history of the art, you know? But yeah. All right, let's see. So now, the third and last thing that I ask students to do when I first see them in the classroom is to bathe yourself of belief. What do I mean by bathe yourself of belief, right? Um, when we say that knowledge is infinite, that means that we are always in a universe where what? We have to wisdom in a universe where knowledge is considered constantly adding on, constantly being surrounded by new knowledge. And all of us are creators, so we're dealing with the creations of everyone around us. So when I say this, um, the when I say bathe yourself of belief, what I'm talking about is, what is it that you're doing that is based most on belief, right? What is based most on belief? And that is the next thing that you need to learn, right? Um, and that's what's important. Um, and let me say this though, right? The when we I'm gonna go back to that Karis one thing, because on the live chat I see Smells Good said some stuff about Karis, and I figured that you would go there. Um, there are some people that I've seen their perspectives that know Karis one, like Hakeem Green and others. And it, like I mentioned, the his 800-page book, The Temple of Hip Hop. If you ever built with Karis one, and if you ever read his books, though, and I'm not talking about just the gospel of hip hop, I was saying the temple of hip hop. I had the wrong title of the book, but Ruminations, right? Which is an earlier book from 2003. What's another book of his? There aren't that many that are available, right? But those two books, though. So I mentioned Ruminations because that book is from 2003, and it's relevant to what we're talking about now, because we're talking about someone that has um, a very useful philosophy and ideas about things, right? When it's in gospel of hip hop, so you could say it's a recent thing, but it isn't. It is something that Carson has been advocating for over 20 years, and it's in the Ruminations book, which is a very old book, right? One of the things that KRS-One always had a problem with, and which is a very real thing, was this idea of the leaders of viable movements being torn down irrespective of any kind of proof, or guilty before proven, guilty, before proven innocent. Now, when it comes to um, Bambaataa and the things that KRS-One said, right? Obviously, I disagree, because I don't think that. I just felt like the personal sources, along with the personal sources that even my own self had, um, about Bambaataa and his devilishment, were overriding for me to bear witness to Bambaataa, or anything like that, right? But a lot of most of the comments by KRS-One were taken by other people reporting on him, and that's always a problem, though. I don't think that what he was advocating was literally something that is word for word inside the gospel of hip hop book, and in about the beginning, maybe the second or third chapters of the Ruminations book. You know what I mean? And don't be sorry for bringing it up, because analyzing art and the way we analyze, remember, we're going out there as God and earth, or as people with knowledge of self, and how we judge people. And I'm not with the blatant cancel culture, because people that do that aren't having a good science behind what they're analyzing, right? So what I'm saying is, like, we have to do the knowledge to what he was building on. You know what I mean? And obviously, I haven't had the chance to ever build on him about this, though. And I would have a lot of questions that really went unanswered as far as his about the ideas about a leader being torn down. But what he gave back was his blatant answer about leaders being torn down and ruining movements. You know what I mean? And and that's why I understood where he was coming from. Now I thought that it was ill applied, and us being God and Earth, our perspective is always from the babies first. In fact, that's something that we actually have to learn. We say the babies are the greatest, but we actually don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? And so we have to learn, like, what is the child's perspective? What is the way that we deal for the children in certain ways? You know, so we have to learn how to do that. That's not something that you just get because you love kids and they're so cute. Oh, look at the baby. I love the babies. You actually have to learn how to have the children as a perspective first. That's something that is people don't really understand how to do or ever do that. You know what I mean? Right? Right? But you know, so I think personally, knowing and how KRS-One has built, having had built him for a very long period of time, and really studying him for a long time, though, through the works of others and stuff. Not just, and I'm not talking about just his musical works or the all the books that he's written, no, but also studying and building with other people who have built with him, right? Um, I think that the context was more. See, the thing about KRS-One's ego, he's more intent on giving you the insight that he has as opposed to acquiescing to the general understanding and direction that needs to take place at the moment. So his perspective wasn't saying, okay, the babies are the greatest and we have to fuck everything else. We have to deal with the children first. Forget about everything else. His perspective was the broader picture about what could be lost, though, in the nature of how we don't actually put someone through a trial first. You know what I mean? And to show and prove, to let them prove their innocence or guilt, and that is very detrimental to any movement. It was more important for him to have that understanding. So KRS-One's perspective is not child first. You know what I mean? Now that doesn't mean that his perspective isn't worthy of dealing with, right? And that's why, you know, that's why I had that's why I had that issue with that. You know what I mean? And again, building with other people that know him, then I understood where he was coming from. And I don't think that he ever got to, completely build on that. He was pretty much canceled, and most of the media wasn't really asking him the questions to really clarify that. You know what I mean? But knowing the way that he builds, knowing that people that see, I'm gonna say this, right? Everyone's learning this knowledge of self, right? And you're telling me don't front, please, right? Do the knowledge to this, right? Um, a lot of people understand what it is to have a thought, have an idea, go into a cipher or a group of people and powerfully state what you think. But most people don't know what it's like, though, to have entire groups of people listen to what you're saying and have to constantly hear your understanding, right? And then actually really feel and believe. And I use the word believe here on purpose, and believe that what you think is the directive that will help people the most. That could be detrimental or not. So, like, what I'm trying to say for you, for your analytical skills, it's a waste of time to try to throw away. It's definitely a waste to throw away KRS-One, throw away KRS-One and not analyze that aspect. You know what I'm saying? And not really analyze it. I'm not asking anyone to forgive or anything like that or anything. But if you go back, you also, and I say this too because I come from the media field. I've been a journalist over 25 years, a quarter century. So when I read pieces, I know what's being asked and I know what's being left out. I know where the direction of the interview is being inappropriately directed, and I know where the clarification points aren't being asked. And so that's why I don't always cancel someone that has been valid for a long time just because they have like a mistake. Just like for example, when RZA had a couple of bad interviews and it sounded like he was actually pro police. You know what I mean? I think that I think he was blatantly wrong, but I thought that once he has a handle on the situation and is out of that cipher, then he won't be acquiescing to the sentiment of that cipher. Karis will be an opposite case, though. He refuses to acquiesce to the immediate pressing issue that people have. You know what I mean? He almost never really goes in that direction. He almost always has to go into the direction that adds the third wheel to something. You know what I mean? And that's what makes him a pain in the ass a lot of times. You know what I mean? And when you interview someone like that, then you would know that that's what they do. You know? But Smells Good said, making the good decisions, how much strength to apply to each side, when and where, is what leads to great shoes like Curry being free. Indeed, indeed. I know that that was referring to the building before, right? All right. But certainly you had the right. All right. Mm-hmm. See, here's something interesting, right? When we get knowledge of self, or we have the knowledge of self, we get taught to teach it as simple as possible. But trust me, as a student, as a learner, though, you're going to actually understand things that you cannot explain. You know what I mean? And you will actually understand things that you cannot explain to all people. You know what I mean? And so what happens is that you'll actually be building, right? And you will actually be teaching certain things that certain people cannot understand. So Smells Good, you said clarity is to be clear. Being crystal clear, speaking is to give understanding. If most folks don't understand what you're saying, you probably need to say it another way. That's not always the case. A lot of times certain things are shared only because certain people can understand them. You know what I mean? They're for a select group of people. Okay? The truth is that concept that everyone has to understand what you're saying, though. Sometimes you will have forums where there will be more listeners, right, that will not understand what you're saying, and it still has to be said. So that's not always the case, though. You know, it's not a blanket thing like that. You know what I mean? What happens to the parts of the class where I start to build on quantum mechanics, though? I guarantee you that there'll be students that don't understand that. You know what I mean? Yeah, indeed. I see that black power fit. Right. Right. So, sometimes I don't want you to be worried about not sharing something, because only a few individuals will have it, though. You know what I mean? You shouldn't take that mentality. And if you're really practice or you really try to engage in trying some of the arts, which I want everyone to do. I want everybody to try the arts. I want everybody to try something artistic. Um, you won't get too far if you're thinking that and everybody will understand. See, you're saying now, what would be the purpose, reason, cause to continue to speak above people's heads? What I'm saying is this: you don't always know your audience, though. You know what I'm saying? And the audience varies, though, right? Because let me say something here. When you're teaching people, you also have to challenge them and bring them up to your level. So at one certain point, though, you are talking above them. And then, like I said, it's a going back to go forward, right? And sometimes you have to go back to the simple, but sometimes you have to thrust them forward with something that is very difficult to understand and very complex, you know? Well, when you say AKA saying stuff peeps don't get when they want to get it, that's not what I mean, though. You know what I'm saying? That's not what I mean. Obviously, that's not what I mean. Okay? Right? That's definitely not what I mean. You know? Because what you're saying there is that saying stuff over people's heads when they want to get it. That's different. Because now you know your audience. Okay? But sometimes people share things in forms. Let's say if we wrote a book or certain stuff like that, and it'll only be for certain individuals. You know what I mean? Right? Give me a new kill army. Absolutely. Right? Could always use more kill army. Right? Okay, let me get back to my agenda. KRS One was not on my agenda, but I don't mind talking about that. Okay? Okay, my piece, self, my question is deal with weight loss. Do you have any ideas? Weight loss. Mucho cheese said only 5% understand at the end of the day. Sometimes that's the case, sometimes it's not. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, don't be sorry about anything. I don't mind being challenged though. You know what I mean? In a classroom, we should be challenged. The classroom is a laboratory to build, and we should be challenged, right? We should be challenged. The students should be challenging and always building, right? Uh, let's see. Yeah, as far as weight loss, again, let me write my email because it's hard to scroll back here. So I'll continually write my email here in the Instagram. But email me, Lawson4898. We could always, sometimes it's about the type of workout that you have. Sometimes it's about having more knowledge of what food is. Sometimes we know the foods we should eat, but we don't know what the food does. So sometimes the food, we can't just know this is a healthy food, this is unhealthy food. We also need to know, like, what are the foods for proteins, what are the foods for good fats, what are the foods for complex carbohydrates, and then also know what we intend to do with our body, right? If we don't have an idea of what we're going to do for our body, then we're not going to have that that capability, you know and I don't know if I would be able to, but that, as a side note, that's kind of, and I'm just musing here, that confusion about KRS-One and all that kind of stuff has always been something that um people have not tried to see the understand. It doesn't mean that he's right about that. I thought that the children are the most important issue, and the idea of leadership not being completely proven. We're dealing with the testimony of many, right? I thought that the children are the most important part here, and that we shouldn't have to deal with anything else immediately. You know what I mean? So that was my issue with KRS-One. But I don't think, at the same time, though, knowing how he builds, I don't think he was asked properly. And I thought he was put on a defensive, and he ended up defending the insight. And he literally reading off of his books and the consistent thoughts that he's had over the years about leadership in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I thought that the people that interviewed him in his own statements though didn't get everything out of it though. You know what I mean? Maybe that's something that I could one day work to get to confront him. And build on that. Right? And we could maybe get some more insight on that. Right? Oh, let's see. I missed a couple of comments here from Smells Good. Let's see. All right. Da, da, da. Okay. Smells good. What's a tough read? You said AKA the Peace Course. I haven't written a book on the Peace Course yet, so I don't know what you mean by it's a tough read for me, and I've procrastinated. All right. I understand what you mean. Just I need to get to know you better. Of course, yeah. Absolutely, back power fit. That's what I meant. Yeah, right. Absolutely. You know. Let's see. There's a question here. Um, Malik says, God, I thought when we build, we should know our audience. However, you are advocating to build and uplift our whomever they are. Well, look, sometimes you don't always know your audience, though. Sometimes, like, for example, when I do my Power Right show, I have an idea of the audience I'm trying to make, but I don't know my audience like that. I don't know technically who's in there because I don't do it like a live stream. So people watch it, but I don't know. All I can do is say this show is about this and I focus on the particular music. Technically the analysis and the the perspective that I have on music and the insights that I bring about music most likely would be over the heads of many listeners that like hip hop music and like, actual hardcore hip hop. And still, I wouldn't change that because there had to be a way for me to bring that unique perspective. This one's going to close down now. This first part of the live stream on Instagram. So I hope that answers the question. But if you know your audience is there, then you format to your audience. But you're always bringing the audience to a higher level. It doesn't matter what understanding they're at. You're by giving them your understanding, you're bringing them up, right? But right now that concluded the first part of the YouTube. So let me quickly share that on the IG. And I'll get to we'll get to the supreme math. Let's see. I've never read plus lessons from the interior cipher. Yeah. Um yeah, never seen anything like that. That's interesting. And obviously for those that don't know, interior cipher is means jail. Those brothers who are locked down. All right. My favorite plus lesson, honestly, you kind of stepped into that one. I'd say the ones that I write, but my favorite one, I always loved the international teacher, um, because that has been my calling once I got knowledge of self. To be a teacher in the classroom. You know, that has been where my service to this nation. So, and I'm gonna write down my email in the live chat here, so that way you could have it. Okay, I'm just trying to upload this part one on the Instagram, so that way I could start to. Yeah, but as far as one that's not written by me, I've always loved the international teacher. That's always been the one I would say if I had to immediately think about it. You know, that one definitely. But all right. So Sirius said, I need to know the science of going vegan for real. Can't allow for my lower self. All right. I think I'm gonna work on the living food protocols first because I want everyone to be as healthy as they can with whatever I could share. You know what I mean? Um, so I'm gonna work on that one first and get that to you if you email me serious mathematics. But as soon as possible, I'll work on that first, right? Let's see if we get back live on the Instagram here. All right. Let's see. I think I'm live. Yeah. All right. They're ready to build. Okay. All right. Take a chance. Thank you for coming back. You know. Um. Yeah. So. I'm gonna work on that living foods protocol thing, and there's so much health, and I'm like, damn, I don't do that anymore. I do this better. Like what's funny is that there's like when I wrote that living foods protocol the first time, they didn't even sell pea protein powders. Like the majority, 90% of all the protein powders that were vegan were just soy protein isolate. So like that's how long I had that. You know what I mean? So it becomes a thing that I always have to update. But I haven't updated in maybe about a year or two. So that's like uh that's like 20 years in this you know, vegan stuff. But one thing I will say serious though, as far as a build, you said I can't allow my lower desire overcome my higher God. It's the perspective you think about it. I don't like to build on higher self, lower self, right? Um, it's just you. It's just you building. That's it. There's nobody else. You know what I mean? Um, there is no lower self. There is you making mistakes. Here's why. When you It's the perspective. When you make a mistake and you're making mistakes, let's say with your diet or anything else, I want you to be vividly in that mistake. You know what I'm saying? Just like when you're training, right? Like you're lifting weights, and a lot of us though we got back to lifting the heavier weights, right? I finally got my. It's only been about maybe this is the second week I've had my heavy weights back. You know what I mean? So I've been actually able to lift more than my own. Lift more than what was it, like a third of my body weight. I only had like 30-pound dumbbells. But just like you're actually conscious of how you feel, how your muscles are adapting, I want you to always feel like that's you. You see, the you that is in error or in flaw or doing something wrong, that's the same you. This isn't a place of nirvana. This is the same you. This is you. And it's okay because that you is the one that's imperfect, the one that constantly is building, right? Something that is in perfection is never ending. Something that is perfect is already finished. The true and living God, the true and living earth is always building. So they are never finished, right? They are always building, right? So you can't be finished. You see? And so you're always in some type of mistake because you're always inside some type of lesson, some type of lesson that is caused by your own doing. The love that you take, the intent, the love that you go through hell, which is your what work. You're not in a hell that you've been thrust into. The hell is your own work that you have what intently gone into with love, right? There is no hell. That hell in the love hell right though is you. Okay? It's actually you, right? It isn't anyone else. It is the work that you put into things. So I want you to have that perspective like you right now, if you're not eating the right food, then you have to be very conscious of how those foods actually feel and what is the problem with them. Okay? Because you know what? You could actually have some of the right foods, the supposed right foods, and those foods can actually be wrong for you. Right? They could not be right for you. Like I said, look, I became vegan, and for a long time I was having soy protein powders. And the more processed the soy, the more negative. That's why if you're going to do soy, I only advocate organic soy milk um, at the third lowest. Then second, tofu, organic tofu, right? if you're getting really good organic sprouted tofu. And then at the top, the very top, I would say organic tempeh, right? Which I find to be the most useful. The thing about it, though, right? The thing about that is um, every other form of soy is so overly processed that it isn't healthy for you. And that includes the health, and it includes people that don't think they're having a vegan diet, because soybean oil is used in almost every type of thing that you buy. And often, when an ingredient is vegetable oil, there is no such thing as vegetable oil. What is a vegetable? Right? Right? Um, that's like if somebody said, somebody says, hey, what are you gonna eat? And you say, I just eat fruit. You don't know what fruit he just had. You know what I mean? And it's usually soy or corn, and it's usually, because of that, it's usually genetically modified soy. So it isn't just the soy that you think vegans and health foodies are getting. You know what I mean? But don't be so frightened of organic tempeh and organic tofu. Okay, they won't kill you. To me, organic soy milk I wouldn't necessarily use, but that's my issue with all the milks, right? Yeah, Killer Priest is incredible. You know what I mean? Yeah. Um, all the organic milks have mass amounts of sugar that they add to it, and that's a problem, though. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem. You know, that would be my issue with the milks, even though the milk tastes great. Like I don't always have them because they put so much sugars in them, and it doesn't matter if they're putting organic sugar or honey or anything like that. You always got to measure your sugars, right? Right. Let's see. I advocate striving to do raw vegan majority wise, very little processed. Hey, Black Prophet, that's the way. The best way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love oat milk. But oat milk, almond milk, all the milks have lots of sugar in it. That's just the way it is. They're adding lots of sugar with it. So to flavor it, which is obvious and natural. So I understand. You know what I mean? But but that's the thing. And I see the hip hop discussion here. Prodigy is dope, of course. You know what I mean? Man, I'll tell you something. There are early interviews in my career that really boosted me, and Killer Priest was one of my very early interviews in my career. Um, and just a great brother. And that new album, Rocket to Nebula, is I've only heard it once. I gave it one real good listen, and it blew me away. It's hard to blow me away from what I expected from him, because he's such an incredible lyricist and poet. And he basically gave like a complete spoken word rhyme MC album, and it incredible. I was blown away. Right? I was blown away. Probably when I have some more downtime this weekend, I'll just be sitting down and listen to it. Right? Yeah, and Supreme Nature. If you like Grandma's Land that they made a video of, you'll love the whole album. And he really just kind of went with that vibe, the whole album, and it's just he just clever. He's one of the best, and a good brother. You know, interviewed him recently as well, again for Classic Stone Radio, though. Just taking the time, in a busy schedule, and he has a good podcast too, really good podcast. But yeah, plant-based milks with no added sugar. Yeah, if they have no added sugar, yeah, go for it. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes people they can't drink anything without the sugars in it. You know what I mean? If you if you're using plant-based milks like to drink your protein powders, you don't really need sugar in the milks, because the good protein powders, like I really like Sun Warrior. It's well priced, and it tastes great. They use a lot of stevia in it. Like, they use a lot of stevia, so it has a very sweet taste, even though that's not sugar. You know what I mean? It's just a plant, but it's a sweetener, even though it's not a sugar. you could put that in anything. I put it in water and it tastes great. So you know. Yeah, and if Mr. G1, if I deal with oils, coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, just know how you use the oil. You don't you don't you don't use olive oil for high heat. You want to use coconut oil or avocado oil. You know, avocado oil might be your last one only because it's more expensive than the others. You know what I mean? But if you can't afford it, you can use olive oil if you're cooking everything in low flame. You know, taking chance that if you juice your own milk, like cashew milk, the sugar in its own form is different than the processed sugar that is used when you drink. Maybe some. Yes, you're right about that. You're right about that. You know, it takes a long time to make your own cashew milk, though. Right? How many cashews it takes, right, to make cashew milk, right? But cashew milk is tasty too. Yeah, I've tried all the milks. You know, all the milks. Love them all. I don't really have a preference. You know, because I don't go with it. I don't really use them all the time. Technically, 2016 New Year's Eve, Make It So Music, craziest name here. Oats is a gluten which causes contact enteritis in your stomach, which prevents you from absorbing nutrients. Oats is not gluten technically because gluten is really from wheat, and gluten is not wheat. You know what I mean? So usually when we're referring to gluten, though, we're talking about wheat. You know what I mean? Um, but it could be in any, yeah. But technically, yes. You know, if you talk about oats gluten, but really every grain can produce a gluten because the gluten is really just the protein out of it. You know what I mean? Mostly the gluten uh, allergies that people have are usually wheat. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I haven't heard that. I'd love to see the studies about the negatives about oats. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen that. You know, I haven't seen that. You know, and I've always been one to use a lot of I've consistently used oatmeal, raw oats, raw instant oats, and like my protein drinks and stuff. You know, I don't find an issue with that. You know, I do find that you have to moderate everything and use it appropriately. You know what I mean? It's actually really good. You can soak the cashews in water, use a slow masticated juicer, and make the cashews. Yeah, that sounds real peace though. You know, cashews are very sweet. You know, out of all the nuts, they're very sweet. So they tend to make the best. They would make a great. They do make a great milk. You know, but that's peace. You know, that's peace that you're doing that. You know what I mean? Get into the activities of making your own thing. But yeah, I'd love to see a paper on that. You know, or a reference to that. Though, guys, I would like to know more about that. I, for one, think that oats are really useful when used properly. But it's one of those foods that if you overindulge in oatmeals and stuff like that, like if you're trying to bulk, and even if you think that's a cleaner way to bulk, it still has problems. You know, I think it's when people usually eat too much of it. And me personally, I found that. You know what I'm saying? If you eat too much of it. Yeah, peace wise, a lot just be peace of the God. Peace of the God. Mrs. You one. Yeah, you said no flax. Flax is not really. Yeah, flaxseed. I don't have a problem with flaxseed. I use flax seeds. Same. Do I have any more books besides Stone Legacy that builds on the history of the name Musa? I gotta look for them. I gotta look. That's something that is not really particular books. It's gonna be in your references through the Sertima books and all of the great scholars that are in those books. Again, this is not. It's not easy yet. You have to find them. You have to find the builds. You know what I'm saying? You have to find them. Right? I smoke my veggies. Real hip hop. Real hip hop 216. Right on cue. You know. All oils are bad. Use butter. Butter is made out of oils, though, so I don't know how that works, right? And if you're talking about using cow's butter, like real butter, cow's butter, you know, I can't advocate that. That's the worst shit you could use, right? Right? But let's see. I'm behind in the questions here. Yeah, definitely. Even if you're, as myself, a collector of Killer Priest, the album is a unique one in his collection, and that itself is just a major success, right? No, stevia is from a plant. Stevia is literally from a plant. Now, as anything, the extracting of anything can cause a process that could be denaturing. So anytime we find out new things, we could always find out that the processing of a plant to make a certain, to extract the nutrient out of it, or the said ingredient could always cause trouble. You know what I mean? But I have not seen that. You know what I'm saying? I have not seen that. Also, take note, right? We've been having the wrong foods for years, but once we have like something that's deemed healthy, it's very intriguing how those studies come about really, really quick about how those are really bad for you. You know, but it's not a fake process. It's literally a plant. You know what I'm saying? It's literally a plant. It's a glut. It's one of the glucosides from the plant, the stevia plant. You know, and it's made into a powder or a liquid. Now, the thing you're saying, all oils oxidize and clog arteries. So that means in your diet there are zero fats at all. So you have a fatless diet. I mean, what you're saying is like not possible. It's not possible. It's not healthy. So I don't really know where you're going with that, right? Okay. Let me see. I'm reading through these. Oats are gluten. They call it gluten. Okay. Okay. I'll have to look that up. Like I said, I'll have to look that up, right? There are no gluten-free oats. Um, I'm not terrified of gluten though, so that's not a thing for me, right? Black Power said certain oats. It might just be certain oats. Steel cuts are supposed to be better. Yeah, and steel cut and whether they small cut, that just depends on the cut. So it's not really changing the oat. Okay. Okay, you don't have to give your word as bond to some information that you read from someone else though, right? That would be not that'd be kind of silly right there. Your word is bond is not that you heard information from somebody else, right? Because when it comes to studying health, even when we know certain things are correct, or that we say certain things are correct, doesn't mean that it is, right? Yeah. All right. Right, right. That's not what I'm saying. You said word is bond because I did the research. What I'm saying though is that you did the research though, but that you didn't do the experiments though. So I'm saying when you're studying and you're teaching about health, and this is something that everybody, all of us are out there teaching health as we learn it and as we grow. It's always a fluctuating thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's not always set in stone. That's why this whole conversation came about because of the living foods protocol that I give out. That has to be constantly, studied. You know, Mr. G1, I'd like to see that flax lowers testosterone levels. I have not heard that either. You know, like I said, it's amazing that all of a sudden, all of the good things, all of a sudden, have more studies about them being bad, right? Than any of the horrible foods that we're eating daily. You know what I mean? Hmm. But yeah, yeah, I'm definitely seeing that there have been some studies about flax seeds lowering testosterone levels, right? Very interesting. Okay. What else we got here? You said 2000. Okay. 2016 News EBS says, Allah, are you telling people to eat oats? And I'm telling you that gluten prevents your long life. What you did was you presented information and we go look up the information. Okay. I don't remember telling people that oats were the immediate thing to eat or anything. I said that I have eaten it, I have used it, right? And I have heard about new studies, but I did not verify them, right? And that's what I'm saying, right? So we'll go do the knowledge to it, and that's good. It's good counter information, right? No need to fall back though. Yeah, you said what you said, and you said you gave one person a doctor to go research though, right? You didn't give a study, so we'll go look up that doctor. We'll see if we can verify that later, right? What I'm saying to you is that it's always a fluctuating field, so things are always changing, right? Right. So we have some homework to do, all of us, right? What's the Supreme Nature says? What's the difference between sugar in the raw and stevia in the raw? Um, if I remember correctly, sugar in the raw is not even stevia. It's a totally different thing. That's turbinado sugar, if I remember that brand correctly. And stevia is a plant. Sometimes they sell stevia mixed in with other things, so they mix them together. You know what I mean? Right? All right, Black Power Fit. I appreciate that. Right, right. Right, we always have to see how these studies are done because sometimes when you look up stuff, you're seeing the people presenting the information and not necessarily seeing the information presented or to see how the information was done. You know what I mean? Same thing with soy. Like when they talk about soy, we can't use all soy. We can't lump all soy because not all soy is made the same. You know what I mean? And we take note that some soy is not processed and most soy is processed. And that's why I make these distinctions. So we always have to look at that, you know. Quati said, I see today's math. Yeah, you know what? Let me rewind a little bit and get some of these mathematics, right? Yeah, please God, apparently that's some of the new research that's coming out there now. And I'm just saying, like, there's always fast research because people do a lot of studies on them, but that doesn't mean that they're always conclusive. It doesn't mean that they're wrong either, you know. What I'm saying with health, we're always fluctuating. We're always seeing what's right, what's wrong, what's detrimental. You know what I mean? There was a build here from Wise U I want to get to. All right, he said today's math is wisdom, power, all being born to God. How I see today's math is activated truth brought into existence by staying civilized and doing my duty teaching all human families. Okay. So I would say, I guess you're saying activated is wisdom and truth is you, right? Brought into existence by staying civilized. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. And as I always say, a build like that, when you're building on it for yourself, let's say in your journal or anyone else, what you want to do is actually write down, like, how do you intend to do that? What would be an example of you doing that? Right? Let me see who else has that through method. Mr. G1 said, today's math, wisdom, power, refinement, I see as wisdom, use and or application of wise words, ways, actions, judgment, experience is capable of power refinement, shifting or controlling creativity. Very interesting. Very interesting to make that statement and that you use the concept of God as like your creativity. Very interesting. I like that. By doing that, you made it into an active statement, an active, useful statement. Very good. I see it. Something that you could apply as you go along your day. So, two good builds, two good builds, showing me that you know how to define the mathematics, and also there's some intent to apply. Right. So, of course, the work is then to, to apply it, give yourself more intimate details in your own journals and your own personal experience. Right. It might. I guess we all have to do some research. A lot of, like I said, I've been doing the Living Foods Protocol for over 20 years now. And there were so many things that I learned that I don't use anymore. So many things I've learned. I would say that probably the most consistent things that I've always been able to use is some type of vegan protein powder, but that has fluctuated away from soy back in the 2000s all the way to what we have now. But always chlorophyll powders have been a consistent thing, you know? So all of that is important, you know? The one question that I was interested though you said, 2016 New Year's Eve, is you were saying that all oils oxidize, you know, as far as a diet, and I'm asking you how you do it. As far as a diet, how would you get your fats? You know what I'm saying? How would you get your fats? Because technically there are fats and there are oils and everything. So that means that you wouldn't eat nuts, you wouldn't eat, all of the natural foods have some kind of fat content. You know what I'm saying? Right? So what really is my question. You know what I'm saying? Right? He said, I don't eat well, I supplement. That's funny. That's funny. You know that it reminds me of a song. Mostly everybody not here might know salsa like that, but and it's not even. It's probably one of his weaker albums, but in 1985, La Voz del Evento album, he had a song, "Por Todo That Cancer." Like basically was singing like, everything gives you cancer. Can't eat anything, can't do anything. Everything gives you cancer. It kind of feels like that right now. You know what I'm saying? When you study health, and that's why people quit though. One thing is like sometimes it feels like you have to throw away all the ingredients you have, but the thing is, the mentality is not so much though that you can't perfect it or ever perfect it. So I'm just gonna quit and eat whatever I feel like. The mentality should be like every day I do the best I can and try to have the best ingredients I've learned about, and then go from there. You know what I'm saying? Um, and then we go from there. Peace, Powerborn. So again, if you have your builds on the Supreme Mathematics, throw them in there. We'll build this stuff. Okay. Quatis, you built on the mathematics. Did I just miss that, or did I just? I'm looking, scrolling here to see. I could have sworn you built on it, but what I saw you say before was a good direction. So it's fine. Yeah. So I don't know. So all right. All right. So listen, some things that you may want to update me on or not. Is all these other plus lessons I've been writing to make things simple so that we could continue to build. You know what I'm saying? Just like my build awareness square, the first thing is eat. The fact is that we're always studying what we eat. We're always trying to elevate. We're always trying to add on, and it's always going to be difficult because we're always looking at how we do things. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I may have lost it. Can you if you built on the math, Quatis, can you just copy it and paste it again there? You know what I mean? Can you just throw it again so that way I don't have to look for it? Because I'm totally lost here and can't find it. You know, right? That way I can build on it and stuff because I don't. I looked and I didn't find it though. But um, but again, though, like these are the things that we always want to modify how we do stuff. What I found mostly with a lot of the foods that are so-called healthy is that what makes them negative and wrong is the processing of the food. Because now that the food that is healthy becomes popular, it becomes massively produced and thus massively processed. And that would be an example with soy. I don't know with flax seeds, but probably one of the reasons might be the overeating of it. Because one of the problems with flax seeds is that people were using that to get their omega 3s, and the omega 3s that are in it we're still not really giving people enough omega 3 because it has a lot of omega 6. So you're not really fixing that imbalance of omega 3s that you had. So it's a good add on, but it wasn't for that immediate purpose. That's why we started to use flaxseed oil. You know what I'm saying? And flax seeds, you know? um and that's the thing, you know. So that was one of the reasons. So we also have to look at the reasons why we're using certain nutrients, the reasons proposed to us immediately why to use certain nutrients, you know. But I think that some of these studies, though, they're also not done very repeatedly. They're like one study, and because the study causes produces a result that could be controversial, they put it out there immediately. It might, you know, it might not be as countered and as studied as much as we like. You know? Yeah, and I'm seeing this article made a very good point here. Just to make note about certain things, it said that oats are often produced in fields that also other grains as wheat are produced, and so there's a possibility of the glutenization happening from that cross, uh, you know, that cross of those aspects. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. You know, be careful with those gel caps. Hope those gel caps are good. You know what I mean? If you want to get omega 3s directly, I would use the uh, the algae, right? The algae. You know? Peace, jewel of the earth. I don't know if I made particular books that deal with the earth particularly because I think that they're poorly written or not engaged with that. You know, most books written by women, unfortunately, are very reactionary. You know, and I would like all women to read the same books that I'm giving out everybody. You know what I mean? That's one thing. So my 50 book beginner list is I want everybody to read it, especially women. But if I had like certain individuals that I would want them to read, there would be certain people like I would definitely want sisters, particularly sisters, to read books written by Vandana Shiva and others that would not be in the curriculum I would immediately give men. But I guess if I devised something, I would have particular books that I would probably guide, you know, just having daughters and stuff and raising them and dealing with them. So there would be particular books. But generally I wouldn't say that the books that I advocate for everyone that I wouldn't want all the women to read those books too. But there are particular books that I would want sisters to read, you know? Right? Definitely. It's a good question, right? Avocados are high in omega 3. You know what? I never really researched that though. I love avocados, so I was gonna eat them anyway. You know, um, Puerto Rican household though, we eat avocados just because. You know what I mean? But the avocados is definitely a quality fat that I indulge in. Leisure suits give you cancer. I heard, yeah, that material, right? Quatis, you said, I see today's math wisdom power as experimenting with the utilization of an idea and determining its ability to bring out the intended aim. This experience revitalizes efforts or redirects them. Okay. All right. That's wisdom power. I see that. How does it born God? Right? That's a heavy one, though. See, that's a build that would be for you, not necessarily for an individual that you were building with, like a young person or any other person that you were trying to explain this to. And that, understand that when you build, there's two types, right? You know what I'm saying? That's P.E.A.C.E. You know, maybe if you email me, I'll devise I'll give you some books that I think that every sister should read. If you think, now that I think of it like that, because I do think that, because there are a lot of books that I definitely like think about it. As far as my daughters to read, but the book that came out about it has like the longest title ever in the universe. Let me get the title. I have it on my Kindle, but I'm trying to figure out what's the name of the book. Starmel wrote about it in the 5% media. I always forget how the title starts though. It's like the longest. Yeah, yeah. The true history of Allah is 5%. Um, if that would be a good book because there are essays from Ertz in there, and they give their stories of getting this knowledge as well. So, um, that would be a definite book. Obviously, knowledge itself has essays from you know, you know, from Ertz in there, or, people that were coming in the name of at the time. So it definitely can be useful. You know? But definitely that the true history of Allah is 5%. That there are essays from Ertz in there. You know what I'm saying? If I remember correctly. I think on my laptop I do have the Kindle. I can open up my Kindle from here. I opened it. Nothing. It decided to do nothing. Yeah, but I'm sure that there's at least an earth or two that wrote in there. Let's see if we could open this and maybe look through the table of contents. Yeah, Queen Omala, Queen Utopia, Queen Azar. Let's see. I'm just reading you the names of the essays of Ertz that are in this book. So that's a few of them already. That's kind of in the middle. So let's see who else we got. And that's pretty much it. But from what I remember reading, those are really substantial sections. That's a substantial section in the book. You know what I mean? So that book is definitely one to read. Those essays I think are crucial, to have. I don't know how many pages it is because I have it as a Kindle and it just gives me locations. So I forgot. There's a I had written it down somewhere. There's a way to calculate how many pages a Kindle is using the location and stuff. Um, so let's see. It would be about location 6,001. Yeah, about 500 on the location. So I don't know how much that is. Forgot how to compute it. I actually made a calculation, but there's at least about 30 pages in there from firsthand accounts from Ertz and all the other gods. They actually have significant things to say about the Earth's stuff that are actually useful, and not just like side notes, you know. So definitely I would advocate that as a immediate book, definitely. All right, going back to these comments here in the Quatisi, funny. It felt like a rapper. That's good. That's good, Quatis, that it feels incomplete when you build on the math, though, because what's going to happen, though, is that's why I always ask you to have a journal, because what you wrote down today, you'll be building each day. And then once you get to the next month's 25th day, and you go along the next 25th month, you'll see it'll start to get easier. You know what I mean? And easier by, you'll notice how useful it is, you know? Chia seeds are high plus in ancient grain. Okay. I see that. Mr. G1. Yeah. Real Hip Hop 216 said, I see today's math as wisdom, power, refinement. I use my wisdom to power or refine my daily life cipher. Not incorrect, but you use the word power refine in your, and you use the actual math inside your build. So we don't really know what those words mean, So for the exercise, you have to actually define those words supremely. 2016, you said hemp seed oil, a plant derived source of omega 3. Okay, that's right. Hemp seed oil has been found to contain more than 8% polyunsaturated fatty acids, including all three omegas. Okay, right. It's also a cheaper protein, too, protein powder, hemp. If you can't afford protein powder and stuff, they'll sell it to you plain. Not the greatest tasting, but, if you put it in one of those plant based milks, it'll be fine. Now, just make sure that they're vegetarian. That's all. They'll say it on the capsule. You know, if it says it's a vegetarian capsule, then you're okay. Black Power Fit. I see today's math, wisdom, power, refined, being born to God is applying what we know in regard to the truth we learn from research and studying to refine oneself, improving our divinity as God. So you saw it as a development of self, a direct links of development of self. I see it. Very good build. Mr. G wants a vegetable cellulose. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that fish gelatin. To me, that's not vegetarian. You know? There's a book though. What a Fish Knows. You read that though, it'll take you closer to getting rid of fish on your diet. Great book. Okay, Jassim, you see the mathematics. How do you see it? What's your build on it? Have I taught women besides your Earth and Moon? Well, technically, I don't. Just so people know, I just have my daughters now. Um, the mothers of my children know that if they're the Earth, they'll be the Earth by themselves. Um, but I taught them when I was with them. Um, yeah, there throughout the years, there's many women I've taught at many levels though. So I taught them as students, just like in the classroom as they came along, Jewel. Um, and however far that they were willing to progress though. Then no, that's peace. That's peace, Jewel. Yeah, I'm not sorry at all. You know, but Jasim said, like the CNS, the natural path taken to activate force and direction. Okay. Okay. Correct me, enlighten me. What is the CNS? I don't know what we're acronyming here, right? But yeah, I think that like any student, see the thing is, right? A lot of times, oh, the central nervous system. Yes, okay, that's peace. All right. So what does it have to do with your build? The first thing Jasim is out, your build. Like, how would you use wisdom, power, all being born to God is what I was asking. But building with female students is a lot of the nature of also teaching students in general. I see them all the same in that I could relate to it. It's obvious that I could relate to a man that I'm teaching that they're the true and living God, or showing them how they're the true and living God. But everyone's experience, and the more I live, the more no one has my experience. So what happens is the teacher has to have a great empathy, a great understanding of what a student is going through and what they possibly could do to reach their fullest potential. So in essence, though, I don't really know anyone perfectly well enough to teach them. You know what I'm saying? As far as relating to them directly, right? It's about learning about them so that I could teach them, and then trying to empathize on what they would really actually need to really develop their greatest self. You know, the greatest talents that they have, their greatest ideas, and just constantly develop, and put them in a position to always be a student, even when they're not in the classroom or don't have a distinct classroom objective, right? Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and you know what's interesting, right? You said, I'm just reading this for the class. Jewel or the Earth said, becoming the Earth, his Earth, and a queen, or in this case, and or queen, right? Especially being born in this culture is very different realms. They're all different realms, and what's interesting is this: the original woman with knowledge of self has to be has to be allowed to and promoted to learn just because of learning. You know what I'm saying? And and let those other things take place, because right, I don't I have children, and I don't have anyone that is my earth. That so, but no one's saying that, oh, he's not really the God right now. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, though, is that there has to be a way of learning, though, where we accept and we actually promote the building of the earth, though, even as they just are the earth, just for the individual. You know what I mean? And sometimes we, you know, not sometimes, most of the time we see the role is extremely functional. You know what I mean? So that's definitely one thing. But when I'm teaching students, though, I'm just teaching them to really build and get everything that they can do. What is it that they want to do? What are the skills that they have? You know what I mean? And how best that they can build that, you know? If you notice, I'm not really teaching people to say, hey, listen, you're going to be part of this nation and do this, this, and that, because that should be stuff that they want to do if they're going to get this knowledge of self, right? But our duty isn't really to teach people to be in our nation. Our duty is to teach people the knowledge of self. Whoever decides to be in our nation, then they was going to give themselves that flag. They was going to give themselves that flag, right? Right. And Jules said, pardon everyone doesn't teach it the same or know that it's different ways of giving it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, absolutely. You know, right? It takes a lot of practice, right? I know I'm being a pain in the ass with you, Jesse, but I don't see where your build is on the day's mathematics. Because you just said what the mathematics is, so you didn't see it. You just said it, right? Ayazid said, "Peace. I see today's math as my ways and actions, things I do or don't do, showing the power I have over myself, which I demonstrates. Dear God." Okay. It's a little awkward the way you said that at the end, because once you said showing the power I have over myself, that could have been the end of that. That makes so much sense right there, right? Right? That makes sense right there. You didn't have to go anywhere else. All right. Mr. G1 is offering, telling 793rd, Source of Life Gold Tablets, the ultimate wealth T vitamin supplement, concentrated whole foods. Now, mind you, look, we were talking about, like, you know, and this is something that I'm thinking of because what's 2016 New Year's Eve was noting that he doesn't eat well, but supplements are some of the most heinous processing is done for the most gloriously sounding vitamins that we have. You know what I mean? And yet I still advocate you to supplement because I know that the foods that are out there are so denatured. You know, so that's a problem. You know what I mean? So we always want to look at that stuff. You know? Let me see here. As soon as right word 60 said, right judgment in light of the truth is distinctive to God. That's some good stuff right there. Word 60. Huh. Nice stuff there. Right judgment in light of the truth. See? This is what we're dealing with here, right? We're learning new things. And that's one thing about health that's always so challenging. That's why people quit, right? No problem, Jasim. You know what I mean? And if anything, Jasim, email me. I want to take the time out, right? Let me read this latest comment, and then I'm going to go into something about the student that is online. Powerborn said the God Sabu told me this is will knowledge, not force knowledge. Will knowledge, not force knowledge, right? Meaning you don't force it on anyone. They have to have the will to want this knowledge. Yeah. He says, all right. That's peace, Gregory. Look forward to it. Look forward to it. And going off what he said about sending me an email as he leaves the classroom cipher. Um, the last piece that I wrote for the 5% media was my peace course column, and I called it One Mic. Obviously referring to that my audio was trash most of these sessions as we transition, and I finally got it right though, because I had to get me like a nice little microphone here. But which serves me well because if I record vocals for people and things like that, I could actually use that. But that's peace, Ayazi. That's peace. Side note, when you 2016, when you say ancient plant source supplements, what does that mean though? You know, so that would mean chlorophylls, right? Because I definitely see what you're saying. Because like a raw supplement, like I would consider like chlorophyll powder is a raw supplement, whereas a vitamin C powder, let's say vitamin C powder, just vitamin C alone, Vitamin Shops vitamin C powder, that would be an extremely processed supplement, even though the ingredient that ultimately is made and is the only ingredient in it is the final product, vitamin C, ascorbic acid. Um, it's extremely processed, right? And yet, in this world of denatured foods and everything, where even organic foods aren't as potent, the that could be that could be very useful. Right? Real Hip Hop said, I saw today's mathematics. I used my wisdom today to manifest my power to build with God's who are as enlightening and teaching of Allah's nation. Okay, okay. You're still using the supreme math in the actual build. Okay. I do want you to practice not using it. That way how would you explain these supreme mathematical words without using the word? You know what I mean? Okay. Mr. G1, true indeed. That is supreme point. They are probably the best ways to get your vitamins in. They are, but I don't tell people not to supplement with vitamins either. You know what I'm saying? The truth is that we're in a world where everything is messed up a little something, and I'm putting it mildly, you know, putting it very mildly there, you know, right? So you do the best that you can, right? You do the best as you can, um, and just continue to add on. But also, too, a lot of times I want you to take note whether flax, whether uh, oats, anything like that. Understand that a lot of the studies against healthier foods or foods considered healthier are because um, the major industries that are not really getting money out of that are trying to knock down all those things. At the same time, though, understand that the more that healthy, so-called healthy things are being distributed, they become more processed as a result. You know, Black Prophet, exactly what I meant. Thank you for that. I'm going to read that out loud. Breaking down the day's mathematics is like giving the definition of a word without using the word. Think of it like that. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Right? Right. Um, so now look, what I meant in my column about that my last column in the 5% media, and I called it one mic, was we can easily dismiss the digital student, the student that cannot come to Mecca, cannot come to a law school in Mecca and really learn, and say, look, he's just, they're just not going to be the real students. They're not going to be the gods that really get this like that. You know what I mean? Like they're never going to see it. It's a waste of time. You know what I mean? They're not going to be around the elders. They're not going to be around the people that are testing them. So they're not going to really be molded like we are. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying we, me. I'm talking about me. The like Sunez, the Dark Kims, and all the other gods. You know what I mean? Now, if you're a student that's online, though, and you just accept that willing, then you did exactly what we didn't do in getting this knowledge. What you do is you do your best. You engage in the forums as much as you can. And when I give you an email, if you actually get my number, then you continue to contact and you continue to build as strong as you can. Because the places you are with no gods and you have to learn with somebody from far away, the truth is that you'll end up being that one that's the only one there. And the truth is that no matter what anybody says, the true and living God is always alone. Okay? You always have to move as if you're the only God that ever existed. Right? That you could create life and matter all by yourself and restart this whole thing. You know? Right? To create the realities that are necessary around you. Right? So the digital student, I'm just calling it that, the online digital student. I call it more the digital student because it's not just online that they might be learning, but through email or things like that, right? It's you who have to take the initiative. You have to find a way to say that it's not acceptable that I can't get to Mecca like that because of my distance. I don't have enough money to just take a flight whenever I want to. Or we were impaired by Corona, whatever it is, right? What are you going to do to say that that's not good enough? What are you going to do to challenge that and change the directive, right? And to learn this the right way, right? This is what I'm saying, right? How much building can you do? You see? Gotta tell you, in some respects, it is quality, though, right? It is quality, right? Sometimes the quality of the build is in the quality of the build that the student receives from the teacher is dependent on how intimate the relationship that they can have with the teacher. What do I mean by intimate? In other words, how direct and one-on-one that they can make this relationship, right? And see, the thing is, though, is that understand that getting this knowledge itself, Real Hip Hop 216, as a digital student, does not bring the same respect that it brings to someone that goes to Mecca and, let's say, learns it with me or anyone else that's there building. And that's an actual fact. That is not something that is I'm being mean about. That is not something that I'm saying is like, oh, well, it's not. That is something that I am directly addressing and is an actual fact. Because there are certain things to walk and talk in the streets with the gods that had it. You were learning things that you would not learn in a classroom setting. And understand that the people that really learned it from me weren't just learning in that classroom setting, but we're learning outside of the classroom. So it's not really this classroom. It's the intimacy that you develop outside of the classroom and how you build, right? How well you build. So what happens is you have to accelerate, though, the quality of your questions so that you just don't get it just by osmosis, by walking with the gods. See, a lot of the builds that I needed to know to teach this, to have this, I was learning just by being around. One of the things that you can do to accelerate this and overcome that as a digital student is by making better questions, by achieving your assignments better. You know what I mean? And the last part, the second part of this Instagram thing kind of ran out, got kicked out because they only do an hour. So we'll put this up and then we'll get that last part 3 going for the last half hour here. Yeah, right, Quatis, you know, right? Yeah. You know, and that's the thing, right? Quatis, you're a great example because you were a student of mine in the classroom, and then, you know, life took you where you had to go, and you're not near the classroom at all, right? Then you have to go above and beyond to say, Sunez, these are the things that I need, or what is the direction I take? And so you have to be a better evaluator of where you're at, what you need, right? So it could have me skip a lot of the things that I cannot analyze, and me to make the right assignments for you to really build. The other thing is the testing. How can I test it? Let's say you memorize something, if you can't really show and prove, right? But on certain levels, we could FaceTime, we could do these things with certain students that really are building. Of course, with all of the students I have, I couldn't FaceTime all of them. So that means that certain students have to put themselves in a position where they read all the materials, they studied the plus lessons, they started to build their lives and show and prove that what they were learning, they actually are using and succeeding with. And now they can take another level, though, saying, I got to build personally with the God. And now I get to graduate to another level of intimacy in that. And maybe we could FaceTime or do stuff like that. Do you see where I'm going with that? So all of this stuff is important, right? And that is something that is often not taken heeded to, right? So let's see how I'm set up here. It looks a little Batman-y. All right. Let me see. Being in okay, I understand. Right. If you're asking the right questions, you are doing the knowledge, right? But you also have to have what? Like any good student, you have to have the completion of the assignment. You have to show success in some kind of way. And that is something that is, that is something that is harder to do, right? Sirius, you said, I got the knowledge in the interior side, but now I'm in the free side. I connected with the gods out and he heard truth, Houston. So I agree with you. And there you go. You know, but not everybody ends up in Houston, right? What if we end up in a place where there are no gods, like, you know, some Hickville or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Some place where there aren't any. You know what I'm saying? Right? But what I'm saying is I'm giving you the challenges, Real Hip Hop 216, to say that no matter what, this type of hands-on education isn't the same. So it's you that the onus is on to say, damn it, this is the only way I could get it. What am I going to do to make sure that I get it as strong as possible? Well, then succeed in everything. If I give you books in an email, don't make sure you sift through them. Read them all. If I give you these plus lessons, have a way of showing and proving to me that you actually lived it out and actually saw progress with them. Not just telling me. How could you show and prove the progress as opposed to saying, yeah, you know, I'm changing the way I eat this and that. Like, how could you show and prove that? That would be the way, right? Don't take it on the heels and say, look, this is the best I could do, so I'll just learn this like this. Nah, don't do that. Black Prophet, you said, my foundation and knowledge of self being closely tied to roots by me being able to build in the physical side for here and Allah's line with my aligner, and I'll treat the firstborn ABG 7 in Allah. Yeah, not everybody has such a, the honorable root like that. Right? Jasim, you said not here for respect, but to gain a greater understanding. Of course. But among those elders, though, that respect is worthwhile and, worthy of getting. You know what I'm saying? Because the respect of the elders isn't something that is like, oh, they like me now. No, it's something where we're talking about a respect that is earned through actual ways and actions. You see? So when we talk about respect from the older gods, it doesn't mean respect like, oh, they see me a lot, so now they know me and it's cool. They respect me. No, they expected you to show certain works, and you showed those works. So when you earn that respect, it's actually a meaningful thing. Right? Supreme nature, like Rhode Island, yeah. But you're that God. They don't need nobody else. And how could you make it where they don't need anybody else? Then you have to think like, wait, if I was the only one here and I'm the only one teaching, then what am I doing? How am I going to give it to them the right way? See, and that's where your line of questioning would be, to that person that is one place all by themselves. You have to be thinking, well, what do I need to know? And let's say if I was the only one teaching here, then what would I have to have so that way I could be official out here as well? You see? And that's the thing. Right? And Quatiza, maybe you the only one. You know what I mean? You're the only one. And that's okay. Right? Okay. So I'm gonna get up in the school once I know the math out, but what time I don't want to show up unprepared. I appreciate that. 2016 New Year's Eve said last thing about food: gluten, wheat, barley, rye, oats are made for animals with 4 stomachs, not humans. Okay. Take that. See what we could study with that. Okay. Again, I'm not against the grains though. Although I feel though that if you overeat the grains, you'll have problems. You know, and of course though, if we're training and working out and stuff, we know what it is to overeat the grains and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that the grains are useful. You know what I mean? And look, a lot of grains were also depicted as grains for animals. Is also a European concept because they didn't know how to prepare foods. See, a lot of times the things of this earth aren't really bad for you. It's because they're not properly prepared. And with a lot of foods, people are still learning how to prepare them. So that's something that I would keep in mind. You know what I'm saying? And when people today have allergies like to gluten and things like that, a lot of times it's really the processing of things and not necessarily the actual grain itself that's bad. You know? So we have many things like, let's say like people not uh, like I'll have the itis. I'll get sleepy with certain grains, but if the grains are sprouted, I don't have that problem. Like let's say with Ezekiel bread, which is a mixture of sprouted grains made into a bread, I don't have that problem. However, if I'm really hungry and I overeat those breads, then that happens though. So a lot of times though, is it the amount, it's the right amount, the perfect amount, and then all of those other things put into play here. So those things are crucial as well, right? Mr. G1, I'm trying to reach a law school in Mecca around mid or end of July for a couple of bills with you and Darkim. That'd be real peace, But again, like the school, I'm gonna go back to school July 9th. I ain't in no rush to see all of y'all. Y'all might be bringing some COVID, whatever. Y'all can stay where you at. The point is that I'll be at the school though. If that's the best way for you to go get there, and you really want to learn it, then But don't be running here across the globe to get to me though. I'm just messing with y'all. Y'all take that long trip to get over here though, then I'm gonna build with you. Y'all know that. I'm just messing with y'all. You know. Okay, real. Okay, okay, yeah, Cleveland. Okay, okay, real hip hop 216. You're in Cleveland, yeah. You know my brother out there in Youngstown, my brother G Huff. One of my favorite brothers out there. Great MC, great brother. 2016 New Year's Eve. That's your name. Possible Allah. Never seen that name though. It's a little awkward, to say the least. Hmm. I gotta get that to you. I don't know if the God Self Magnetic is online, but I got your questions. I want to answer them tomorrow. Okay. I thought I sent that, but I didn't send it. I gotta send that. Too much of anything is good for nothing. Yeah, yeah, apparently so. You know what I mean? So it's always a measure. Even when you have good things, if you have too much of it, you also would lose the potency of them. You know. But let's say, for example, right? I love tea, right? And I love, like, for example, I love guayusa tea. I'm actually not drinking guayusa tea. I'm actually drinking oolong black tea right now because I don't drink that near the nighttime. But when um, when I have like guayusa tea, as I finish that batch and I get to the end of that batch is losing its potency because it's been exposed for so long. It doesn't matter like anything about it. It's been exposed. So is it because it's not working for me, or is it because the batch is getting older? It's like a month in, or over a month in, right? So when you're dealing with food, you're dealing with lots of variables. You know what I mean? You're dealing with lots of variables. So it's very important to always do the analysis of that. You know what I mean? And always to do your best to diversify your diet, though. And that's hard because we don't always have the money. So sometimes you want to have staple foods that are really good for you, that you can consistently eat. You know what I mean? And then vary it up. Quatis, that's okay. That was the Quatis, right? Right, to see who's there, right? Who is there that he can teach and build. And remember, teach civilization doesn't mean you're teaching the knowledge of self. Civilization, righteousness, knowledge of self, right? The knowledge build degree, right? You teach where they're at, what they have, what they're dealing with, and then you go on. You know what I mean? So it's not always okay. I got the knowledge. I have to teach everybody that they're the true and living God, or that I'm in Europe. I got to teach them all that they devils. That they come from the Caucasus. You know what I mean? Powerborn said, I see today's supreme math as wisdom, power, refinement. I'm drawing that up to be that as self making proper decisions, wisdom based on my research knowledge, which will produce the. Oh, this doesn't. Oh, I got cut off. Gotta see the rest of that. Peace to the gods. Peace to God, self magnetic. Peace to God. Oh, okay, Atif been in. No, because you wrote possible a lot. I was like, wow, is that possible? Is what? Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm a little off on the time here. That's why. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah, nah, listen, right now Detroit, all they could keep giving me great hip hop, but yeah, I can stay over there for a little bit. You know what I mean? Everybody can stay where they are for a little bit. Just a little bit. You know what I mean? Let me get into the classroom and give me a little breathing room, you know what I mean? But I'm just messing with y'all, you know what I mean? I say all that stuff, you know, if y'all came through, I'd be happy as hell. Especially a lot of you brothers never seen in the physical, never met, you know what I'm saying? That's right. Fakim was a pain in the ass. Always challenging everybody. He never stopped doing that, you know? The elders, like my teachers, knowledge, me, Savior knowledge, firstborn prince, when I used to build them, they always used to ask another question. You know what I mean? They used to answer a question. Yeah, you like that? Thurston Howe gave me this stuff. You know what I mean? Right? And by the way, go to thurstonhowe3rd.com. You know what I mean? The website is updated new and got the complete bio of Thurston Howe up there, you know. Certain skill illustrator low, you know, might have written that whole joint. You know what I mean? Might have written the whole thing. Yeah, no, Mr. G. Yeah, Mr. G. I'm being told. Yeah, it's totally hypocritical. I'm from now. Why I got all the Rona though? You know what I mean? We the Rona leaders here, right? We're hip hop. You too much, man. Do some stand up comedy. You do enough stand up comedy in this thing. You know what I mean? You know, but it's all good though. You know what I mean? It's all good. You know what I'm saying? We're learning this to be real life people. You know what I mean? But yo, we have 15 minutes left. Let me see if I can get through some of the points in the last thing. There were a lot of things that I said. Next week, I'm going to go through some builds that are ever developing as well. None of these plus lessons build, but I'm going to go through something that links heavily with Word is Bond. And it's a plus lesson I wrote years ago called about interactive planning. Okay. And I'm going to go through that next week, you know, real quick though. And I didn't think about this, you know, so I'm just gonna say something of what I'm thinking. Um, Today's mathematics is wisdom, power, all being born to God, right? When I think of wisdom, power, I always think of the Tao Te Ching because it translates to the way and its power. Tao Te Ching, way and its power. Um, when I think of what about myself, God, right? Then I'm also thinking about the usefulness of my own power. See, God only creates, though, if everything that He creates, though, is not only innovative, but is also useful to all things. So the usefulness, though, in His way, right? If He can express all of the usefulness of His knowledge at any one moment, then He has a supreme power. Let me say that again. If the true and living God can express the usefulness of all of His knowledge, that means that He can wisdom, right? He can wisdom, all of His knowledge, right? At any moment. That is the most supreme power you could have. That's what would show and prove yourself in each and every cipher that you went to. You see? Because wisdom, power, born God. Wisdom is literally, though, the knowledge you have that is being actualized. The person with the most supreme power is the one that can actually actualize, right? Has the power to actualize every single thing that he knows at any one moment. What he truly knows, he can use it immediately and he can transfer that, though. That is power. That's being a true and living God at every one moment. Wisdom, power, born God. Right? That's some tough stuff right there. So wisdom, God is some tough stuff. You know? Right? And in the thought process, what is the thought process when one says, well, how does that work though? You're asking why, right? Why to everything. See, the creator creates to me by saying, what if? You see, when he looks at how he has been, like what he is, he says, why? And he sees himself, it says, why? This is why all of it is happening. See? So there's an interplay with what I like to say is 24 and 25, right? The way of your culture, right, is to bring forth that equality, right? The equality that everything has been shared, right? Which is what? Unknown. Whenever we create, we bring something out of the unknown. That is the way of our culture. When we get to wisdom power, though, we get to the why. It is finally answering why, because now we have what? The power to express every single idea that we have, every single bit of knowledge we have. We have the supreme power to express ourselves at all times, right? That's what the true and living God is. When they talk about what's the difference between the original and the colored man, we talk about pineal gland. They don't have they got melanin, but right? Dr. Drew Pookrum says they have melanin, but we all have melanin, but only the original people have the ability to actually, manifest it through the pineal gland, right? The difference between the 7.5 ounces and the 6, right? The medulla oblongata. So then it's the ability to have that power to actually what? Express that what? That wisdom. Everything that you know. Wisdom is everything that you know that is going to what? Be what? Extended outward. Right? Right? So that's my understanding of the day's math. You know what I mean? I didn't write that. I just said that shit right now. Right? Powerborn, I want to say that you're welcome. You know what I'm saying? You're welcome. Boy, okay. That's peace. That's peace, God. Anything that you need, you know what I mean? I'm trying to add on as best I can. Do you see that when people go to auto, they say, they do, because it's hard to make that complete statement. You know, it's hard to make that complete statement. You know what I'm saying? Right? 790. Okay, let's go. Skill Illustrated Low. Yeah, those who don't know, me being part of Low Lives is because of my hip hop work. You know what I mean? We had the God Rakim, Supreme Shabazz Allah on the check-in. He's one of the early Low Lives and founding Low Lives, and making this into a hip hop organization. He knighted me as a low life, gave me my L's as a low life. And it was Thurston Howell who named me Skill Illustrated Low. You know what I mean? So just a great honor to be a part of a hip hop organization that is working to do positive things and have us express ourselves in a way that builds economy, you know what I mean, that builds unity and camaraderie, you know what I mean, and upholds those pillars that they advocate, that we also advocate, of love and loyalty, right? The loyalty to what you truly love, what is right and exact, you know what I mean? So, and peace to everybody here. I didn't take note of everybody here. I don't know if I missed anything, but thank you for coming and doing knowledge. You know what I mean? Right? Oh, Pablo, I'm a little confused. What are you again saying? All being born too? The way I see it, though, it's just a conclusive statement. It's a way of linking principles together. Some people don't like born. I remember my man, the God emblem. He never liked all being born because it's not real mathematics, but it is a concept. It is a way of conceptually. Uh, it is a numerological way of linking concepts and principles. And so when you're born in mathematics, you know what I mean? So how does 2 5 come to 7? Like you're putting together concepts, you know what I mean? And seeing how the concepts link, that could never be peace down Perry. How could that, work out like that? You know what I'm saying? Right? So that's important. Right? Okay. Okay, I got you, God. I got you, God. All right. Fair enough. Right? Very good point. You know what I'm saying? Because what you're saying, 2016 New Year's Eve, you said adding on, if you don't wisdom your power over time, you can born devil. And obviously you're linking it to the day's degree in you're linking it to the day's degree in 120, right? And that's a good link, because when you don't wisdom, when you don't express your power, right? and we're assuming that that power is not bloodthirsty. We're talking about power that is righteous based on real knowledge, because that's what wisdom is, right? Then what you're also doing is you're hindering, right? And in that hindering, though, you also cause others, though, because you're also damning the power, right? You're damning the power. The power is that wisdom, and you're also damning it. You're keeping it to yourself, you know? So we all have to we also have to come to the realization that there is a level to how much we do know, and what happens if we just hold it for ourselves. You know what I mean? If we don't take that daring and to teach it, to share it, with the possibility that we may not be the only ones that are able to express power with that. You know what I mean? It's a good point. It's a good point, right? Today's degree, how long did it take to make devils? 600 years of grafting, or making the devil from the original people, right? So I can see it so obvious when they build and they say that phrase. They're looking like they're trying to fit a circle in square. Yeah, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. Yeah, Y equals almighty. Indeed, indeed. All right, indeed. All right. So as we come into the last couple of minutes of this course, though, I got online a little bit late. So if you had about 5 minutes late, but I definitely always stay to the 10 o'clock hour. So if anybody has any questions that they just want to add on, I don't know, self-magnetic, if it's peace, that I could answer these questions that you had sent me. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely going to send you the other question you had. That's for you personally. But that's actually probably something that I should think about and give a more longer answer. You know? Yeah, that's definitely question that God asked me in the DM is definitely a heavy one, and definitely necessitates. Real Hip Hop 216, where you been? I just built on it for like 10 minutes, like at the 240 mark in this class, right? I gave a long build about it, about today's mathematics. You are going to have to rewind, right? Since it's real hip hop, let's see if I could find. I have a song in my head. Yeah, but when this is online, rewind for that. It's just literally a couple of minutes before I was building on it. So you must have went to the restroom or something, fell asleep. It's all good. All the classes are here. The whole class will be online. It's all good, you know. Right. So you missed the build I had on today's mathematics. You'll have to do that. Okay. I plugged the class. Powerborn. That's peace. That's peace. That's peace. And since we're talking about that, I do the Classic Storm Radio, but I also do my Power Right show. So they're both have interviews, but Classic Storm Radio almost always has an interview because it's an interview show. You know what I mean? But real hip hop, you know what? It's no use to try to go back and forth with witticisms with real hip hop 216. He's just too beyond my abilities. You know what I mean? Today's math is wisdom, power, or being born to God. Don Perignon, God, right? To right. Well, I think this. Let me throw this out there because there's probably more I want to say about it next time. But you asked, how do 5%ers deal with mental health? How does one help self when these internal problems are harder to detect from oneself? And is this what happened to brothers when Allah returned and fell victim to drugs and crimes? The easiest question to answer is the last one. The last answer is yes, very similar. Um, yeah, Emblem's a great writer. But next week I'm gonna go through some of the builds on that though. But dealing with our mental health though is first. And some of the assignments that I'm giving you, first is one of the cues out of mental health though is our physical health. Attack that first, and you'll be doing something. The next thing is this: there's a saying in Sherlock Holmes books, right? That Sherlock Holmes is given as a quote. He says, "Work is the antidote of sorrow." You know what I'm saying? I've always loved that quote. You know what I'm saying? It was written for the character Sherlock Holmes. He says, "Work is the antidote." For a person like me, though, I really bear witness to that. You know what I'm saying? Um, when you work and you build and you find a purpose in what your nature is, and you find that goal, it's going to alleviate a lot of depression because you're going to start to better ask yourself and being able to pause and say, what is it that I'm being depressed about? What is it that's holding me back? Why am I immobile right now? And then actually attack it. The thing is to accept it and be in that moment and see what is the problem though. Not just to say I'm not supposed to be like this, right? But also, why am I in this state of depression? You know what I mean? Why is what is the basis of my mental health? You know what I'm saying? What are the conditions that would change that would ease up this mental health? You see? And then realize that a lot of it is really within our grasp, within our control. So these are important things to know. Okay? Definitely important to know. Okay? I'll leave it like that though. I'm gonna save this though. I'm gonna save those great questions, God. Self-magnetic. And I'm gonna go into it maybe a little bit more depth. I'd like to go into a little bit more depth the next class. All right. And as everyone knows, the homework though, which no one has handed in yet or proposed, difficulty while doing is make a list of criteria what Allah, the true and living God, must have to be such. Right. And if you're the earth though, right? What makes the earth the earth? You know what I mean? What is the criteria? What would need to be in place? Right? So we can tackle it. Right? All right. And with that said, if unless anybody has any last questions, my email again, your hip hop email is there. Get at him, right? Harass him Allah. He's been harassing me, but I look forward to and challenge yourself digitally though. Challenge me, see what is going to get you to that next level. You know? Yeah, that's what you do, Real Hip Hop 216. Send me things. Send me things you've written. That's what I want to see, right? Yeah, it just worked out, right? 793. Good DJ, always knows, right? That's why I put the EPMD track, right? But maybe maybe I ought to find the time though to see if I could contact Karis one so we can have a build and talk about all those issues, right? But again, email me on the social media. If you're on the social media, you can DM me. My email is Sunez97. I'll write it again because this is the last part of the class. It ends at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 to 10 every Thursday. This next week's class session is the last session that'll be online exclusively, right? And after that, and after that, I'll be back at a law school July 9th. Okay. And I will continue to stream digitally. Okay. And I have articles everywhere. 5% newspaper media.com. But if you're talking about my hip hop work, I wrote premierhiphop.com. And of course, though, I have books as well. But that's something to DM me about, you know? Real hip hop with the last witticism of the day, right? And I've learned as much as hopefully you have learned. You know what I mean? But I've definitely learned some things. And 2016 New Year's Eve, we got some. We all have some more research to do, right? So we get this body to optimal love, right? Because with all the things that you're learning and the things that you're finding, though, we can't just find the negatives about things. We have to find the positives about things so we can use things now. Okay. One thing I can say, last thing about a vegan diet, it doesn't work though. A living foods diet, if all you're doing is eliminating. Okay, you have to be willing to say this isn't as good as it should be, but this is what I'm going to do right now. Right? You can't just do it elimination. I know because I've been a vegan since 1996, so I know what it's like to just not eat anything and then qualify oneself as a vegan. Okay. All right. All right. So with that said, I'm going to log off. Peace to everyone. Go out there and build. Stay healthy. Stay strong, and keep building. All right. Peace.